G'day, Glenn here from Precision Wealth Management. I want to do a quick video today of 5 retirement planning mistakes. And I'll go through them quickly now with a little bit of detail. Now, number one, first mistake is you don't plan early enough. Now I know, very typical financial advisor saying you need to plan early for your retirement. Certainly not suggesting that from the day you start work when you're 20 years old that you need to start planning for your retirement. But if you get to 60 years old and you're ready to give up work and you need $1.5 million for your desired retirement and you've only got $1 million, well, there's not a lot you can do to bridge that gap in the last year of work. But if you make small changes 10 years before your planned retirement date, those small changes over 10 years can bridge that difference. So one of the big things is make sure you plan early enough. And it's not just around money too, planning what it is you want to do. Do you want to be travelling Australia? Do you want to be travelling globally if COVID restrictions allow? Do you want to be playing golf? Do you want to be sailing? All these sorts of things. You need to have a rough idea in your mind so you can put a bit of an idea around the costs that may be involved to do those things, and then you can have a plan towards achieving that. Now the second thing here is invest too defensively. Now the day people retire, people sometimes think that you've got to invest quite defensively because you're drawing down on your money. And whilst that is true to some extent, you still do have a really long investment time horizon. If you finish work at 60, you're potentially still going to be investing for the next 30 years. So if you don't invest in enough growth assets, you potentially aren't going to achieve a high enough return to achieve your goals or outpace inflation. And this is one of the things that I see in QSuper. QSuper in their life stage options, if you're over the age of 57 or 58, I think it is, they've got either the Sustain 1 or Sustain 2, which has at least 50 or I think 75% in the two options in cash and fixed interest. Now as a 57, 58 year old, you still have a lot of investing in front of you, and I consider that to be a way too defensive approach for people. The third thing is nothing to do with money at all, but not staying active, both physically and mentally in retirement. I don't think humans were built for 30 or 40 years of leisure. So having a plan in retirement about what you're going to do to keep active physically and mentally is really, really important. We've had a client, she's just recently retired, and I know one of her goals is to travel around Australia, but while she's doing that, making sure she's always in a town where there's a park run on a Saturday, so she can do park run. Then in between that, travelling around, playing golf at different golf courses as well. A great plan, I reckon. The other thing is underestimate the funds required. Now, there's a little bit of a caveat to that. One, it depends on the desired income you want in retirement. If your desired retirement income is fairly modest, say $50,000 or $60,000 per annum, and you're a member of a couple and you're at age pension age, well, you actually don't need a huge amount of money because the age pension is going to do a lot of the heavy lifting for you, and you only need a small portion of assets to top that up. So that might mean if you're 67 and two members of a couple and you're happy with 50 or 60,000, you might only need $300,000 of superannuation to bridge the gap. Now, if you go the other extreme and say you want to have a really lavish retirement and you want, say, $100,000 a year to live on or $150,000 a year to live on, well then you're going to need enough money to fund that it's going to mean you're not going to get any age pension at all. So you've got to be fully self-funded. And that's what I'm talking about, is underestimating the funds required. So if you're planning on finishing work at 60 and you want at least $100,000 a year, well then the amount of funds you require can be fairly large. There's no exact figure on that. We don't know how long people are going to live for. We don't know what earning rates you're going to get in retirement. We don't know what inflation is going to be. But we do know that you do need a fairly significant amount of money to fund a decent income, increasing with inflation all the way through what could be a long retirement. And the final one sort of goes a bit the other way. It says people don't spend enough early in retirement. And this is kind of what to do with the minimum pension drawdowns people have with superannuation. So currently there's a reduced minimum because of COVID, but ignoring that, people aged up to 65 have a 4% minimum, and then 65 to 75 have a 5% minimum. And a lot of retirees do just draw the minimum because they're trying to make sure they don't run out of money. So that might mean someone with $1 million is drawing $40,000 a year and living quite thriftily on that minimum pension. Then what happens later in retirement, when they get into their 80s, that minimum pension gets higher and higher, and then they've got more money than they really can spend because at that point in time they may not be travelling as much, being as active. So one of the things is make sure you're enjoying your money and spending plenty in the early years of retirement while you're young and active and able to do that. That ties in a little bit with the age pension as well, as the age pension encourages you to spend up big early, get your assets down, have a good time, and then maybe the age pension can fund a little bit of your retirement later on. So I would say they're the 5 mistakes people have when it comes to retirement planning. Not all of them are to do with money, some are around lifestyle planning, but hopefully that helps you with your journey. Any questions at all, put in the comments below or send me a message. Anyway, all the best.